Hey guys, welcome back to a new Delta Force video. Today I want to go over my favorite weapons in the game right now. All of them are available very early in the game, so you can see it as starter weapons as well. And all of the attachments that I'm using are also accessible at least halfway through the weapon progression already. The loadout codes for all of these weapons are in the description below. If you don't know how to use them, you just go to the weapon that I'm talking about and then you go to loadout and import, and here you can enter the code and then import the exact setup I show you in the video, and you don't need to copy the attachments one by one manually. And we're gonna start it off with the AKS-74 assault rifle. I know this is a rifle that probably everyone plays at the beginning, but I can really only recommend to play it because it's a very good and versatile rifle, especially when you just started playing the game. The attachments that I'm using are a lot focused on control, because I think that all of the weapons in Delta Force have a very strong recoil, so my goal is always to counter this, to make the weapon as easy to handle as possible. So what I did was that I went with the Apparel handguard. So you can either equip it or not equip it, and I would recommend to definitely equip it. Also opens up a few more attachment slots, so you can put a laser on the weapon, which is something I would also recommend to do. It gives you a little bit more accuracy, which goes especially towards hipfire accuracy that you need on close range. And then for the muzzle, I used the PBS Russian suppressor. It looks a bit strange, I don't know, it reminds me on a dog or something, but it gives you a lot of control, especially horizontal firing stability and horizontal control, which is, I think, especially useful because vertical recoil is always a bit easier to control than horizontal, so it's good that we have more horizontal control here. Then for the handguard, I equipped the only one that is available. For the foregrip, I went with the angled combat grip on almost all of my weapons. It gives you the most control that is possible, also a bit more accuracy, and it gives you vertical and horizontal control. Then for the magazine, I went with the polymer mag because it gives you a faster reload speed, and also with the mag mount, of course, would always recommend to use this. For the rear grip, I went with the AK Stable, again because it gives you more control, and for the stock also with the Spec Ops tactical stock because of control and stability. If you still feel that this weapon setup has too much vertical or horizontal recoil, you can still adjust this a little bit here in the calibration, but I didn't do anything here because the weapon feels perfect for me. But try it out, and if necessary, do some calibration, some fine-tuning here. Next up, we have the QBC-95, and this is my absolute favorite weapon for the assault class, and I think it's very reliable on different ranges, actually, not only on mid-range but also close range, also a bit longer range, and it works pretty well. Rate of fire is a bit higher, so I can only recommend to try it out if you haven't done yet. What I'm using here is the handguard again, so again, you could either equip it or not, and I would recommend to equip it because more control, more handling, more stability, and another modification slot, which is always useful. It gives you this slot for the patches here, and for those, just going right into this, I used the Ranger handguard because it gives you more control. So I went full control on this weapon, and I think this really pays off. Then on the right rail, I have the laser equipped. Again, I'm always using a laser if possible on my weapons. And then on the barrel, I went with the longbow barrel combo because it gives you a little bit more range and muzzle velocity and also more control and stability. But on this one, I'm especially going for the range because otherwise I felt it was a bit too weak on like longer mid-ranges, if you know what I mean. Then on the muzzle, I'm using the titanium here because it has a lot of control again. And then the angled combat grip, I already explained why. It just gives you the most control of all of the grips. Then on the magazine, the mag mount again, and here I'm also using the smaller magazine, but again, if you like a drum magazine, if you like a bigger magazine, go for this one. For the rear grip, I'm using the Invasion right here, and on the stock I have the cheek pad equipped. Then onto my favorite SMG that is also available for the Recon class, and because I'm playing a lot of Recon, I really like this one and play this one a lot. So this is the Bizon, and this is more of a mix between an assault rifle and an SMG. At least that's how it plays and that's how you can use it. And what I'm using is the handguard again, simply because it's available. Then again, the laser here on one of the rails. Then for the barrel, I went with the standard one. I also have the other ones not unlocked yet, but I used them in a technical test that I had access to, I think 2 weeks ago. And I thought that the standard one is actually the most balanced one. Then for the muzzle, I went with the steel muzzle brake, again because of the control. For the magazine, this time I went with the big one, because with the standard one, with the smaller one, I ran out of ammo so fast and it was so frustrating sometimes that I died just because I ran out of ammo. And with this one, this should not happen anymore, I promise you. Then for the rear grip, the stable rear grip, again for the control. And on the stock, I also went with the Invasion core stock again, also because of the control. Then for the engineer class, my absolute favorite is the G3. I've played this since the alpha, I believe, and I just like this weapon. I don't know why, it's just perfect. It's so good on mid to even long range. It's very, very reliable, it's very stable. You can get it to a very, very low recoil where it's so easy to control. So what I'm using here again is the Ranger handguard, left and right, actually on 3 slots, so left and right patch, and on the left rail as well. And then on the right rail I have the laser again, and on the barrel I'm using the standard barrel, also because I found that it is just the more balanced one. And for the muzzle, this time I'm using the Sandstorm vertical compensator, because I found that the weapon had a very strong vertical recoil, and that's what I wanted to counter, so I went with this one. Then the foregrip, again the angled combat grip, and a mag mount here on the magazine. And then for the rear grip, I have the PSG1 rear grip, and for the stock I'm using the Spec Ops Tactical again. Now the DMRs in this game overall feel a little bit weak, the Marksman rifles. I think this is a bit of a balancing problem. They could be a little bit stronger. I think the damage is a little bit low. You need a lot of shots to kill someone, and I think they should work on this. But still, I think that the Mini Marksman is probably the best Marksman rifle. If you even want to play one, I think it's the best you can play. And this is my setup for it. So first of all, I'm using the handguard right here, the advanced frame system, because it gives you a lot more control and handling. And I think this one alone makes this weapon a lot better than it is by default. For the optic, this is especially important here. I'm using the 3.5 times scope, the X-Cog Assault, because this one doesn't have any scope glint. Up to 3.5 times, the optics don't have any scope glint. Above this, all of the optics will glint, so you give away your position once you aim down sight, and you can be seen all across the map by your glint. If you don't want this, be sure to use an optic that is 3.5 or lower. For the barrel, I would stick to the standard barrel, then left and right rail. I have the Ranger handguard again for more control. On the muzzle, again the Sandstorm for the vertical control, which also I think on this weapon really comes in handy. Then the foregrip, again the angled combat grip. For the mag, I'm using the mag mount, and here I'm also using the 20 round mag, so a little bit bigger one than the original, because you run out of bullets so fast with the original. And then for the stock, I'm using the Invasion core again, simply because it has the most control. And I really think that this makes the Mini 14 a very, very useful marksman rifle, probably the most useful one we have right now, if you want something that is between all of the automatic rifles and the sniper rifles. And when talking about sniper rifles, and this is my recommendation, if you just want to try out sniping or you don't want to be at the edge of the map, this is my preferred sniper rifle and also my preferred setup that I'm playing, and I really love to play sniper. This is the R93, a bit faster sniper rifle, and what I'm using here as well is a laser, just in case I need to fire it from the hip or I need the tactical stance, because the laser also unlocks the tactical stance for you. And the barrel I'm using is the Fission long barrel, because I think it can take a little bit more range, but sometimes I also like to play it with a short barrel. It always depends a bit on how the map is and how the game goes, and if I want to engage a bit more on the objective or not. But normally I'm using the long barrel. I'm also using the heat shield here because it gives you a little bit more handling, and for the muzzle I'm using the Sandstorm again. For the magazine, I'm also using the 15 round extended one, because otherwise you run out of ammo so fast. And again, for the optic, I'm using the 3.5 times. This is not much for sniping, but once you got used to it, I think it works pretty well, and you can hide a lot better and don't give away your position so fast. Because as soon as you aim down sight with the other optics, they're more than 3.5 times. Even this adjustable scope here, by the way, that goes to 5, it has a scope glint, even though it's just weak, but it has a scope glint, so it gives away your position. If you don't want that, go with this one. And that was it for today. My favorite weapons in Delta Force right now that you can also play if you just started playing the game and you don't have too many weapons and attachments unlocked. And I hope you find something useful for you as well, and hope you found this video helpful. I will be going into the whole weapon building process and everything, and what all of these stats mean if you're interested in knowing this in a different video, because it goes beyond the scope of this one. So if you want to stay tuned for this, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. I'm Catwoman, and you are awesome.